Ready?
Ready.
3, 2, 1.
This is The Jungle, an up-close, unvarnished look inside leadership and business strategy. We wade into the real-world leader's face and explore what they do to create a path forward, because that's what business is. Wild, exciting.
It's the jungle.
Derek, welcome back to The Jungle, buddy. We made it through a jungle this semester, did we not?
Yeah, we learned to live in the jungle, Doug. It's good to take a little break. I feel like I'm just gonna have it sit down and in some ways in the jungle and rest for 10 minutes. But what an amazing semester, amazing experience. Learned a lot, went through a lot. It was just a tough one, but it was great to be a part of.
So maybe we'll quickly share what our students heroically did this semester. It was unbelievable. So we had 100 students create 50 videos to lift up small businesses, nonprofits, other big brands in the Michigan area, really just to highlight the good they're doing for the community, making sure they're top of mind. It was an unbelievable effort by our students. They knew little about video when we pivoted once the crisis hit, and they pulled something off that was unbelievable. Wood TV8 picked it up, WWMT picked it up, the students were high-fiving. It was a really awesome thing to see. We talk about our wine brand here in the Hayworth College of Business in our program, Bronco-ness, and that idea of having courage and enthusiasm when it's tough. And our students totally demonstrated that. Couldn't be more proud of them. It was a great thing to be a part of.
It was amazing. It was amazing to be a part of, to watch and learn with students, with you, with the small businesses. I don't think students anywhere else would get a learning experience like that, where they're helping small businesses build an asset to communicate with their customers during a crisis, and seeing what small businesses were going through. And it was just an amazing learning experience. It was challenging and exhausting, but it was great to go through with our amazing students here at Western and Hayworth College of Business. And, shout out to Rhino for coming along for that ride a little bit, and what they're going to do afterwards with, offering to the 3 winning videos to help them produce and professionalize those videos, take them from students, which the students did a fantastic job, but getting them to a professional level now, and offering that to the businesses that won. So some amazing stuff happening here in West Michigan this semester from our students in Hayworth College of Business. So just amazing stuff.
And this focus on small businesses, a lot of the videos were small business focused, and our guest today was just absolutely spot on to speak to the enormity of the challenges facing small business. So today we had the great pleasure of speaking with Brian Calley, who is the president of the Small Business Association of Michigan. So he is in the center of all of the challenges small businesses face. An incredible background he's had. So he has served our state of Michigan as the 63rd Lieutenant Governor from 2011 to 2018, played a key role in Michigan's comeback economically under Governor Rick Snyder. An amazing policy background. He served 2 terms in the Michigan House of Representatives, holds some great degrees, including one from Harvard. This guy has also been recognized in the business world, honored as one of Crain's Detroit Business's 40 under 40. Great guy, took some time to speak with us from his vehicle in Portland, nonetheless. A great story for our listeners to enjoy there. So what were your takeaways from the conversation, Derek?
So yeah, again, right on point. Great guest to have on the podcast. We're trying to help all the business leaders out there learn from each other. Some important things, which shows what the policy makers are facing right now. What he said was, every day that we remain closed, it reduces the chances of a business surviving. The longer we stay closed, the more businesses are going to go out of business and not come back. Scary thing. This is a health challenge first, but the collateral damage that could be done to the small business community that they're trying to help all these small businesses survive through is it's hard to comprehend the percentages of businesses that we're going to lose. Second big one, everyone talking about when will we go back to normal? When can we do things normally again? He's advising, get ready for a new normal. As a business leader, you need to get ready for a new normal. Things are not going to go back. You've got to change your processes, how you interact with customers, how your employees work together. You've got to accept social distancing and some of these guidelines if you're going to open your business. So get ready for that. And that's going to be a new reality, not back to normal. Some things will never get back. which is my third point. Change has created opportunity for some, which is great. Some people adapt to this and they'll change and they'll see opportunity to serve customers, clients, businesses in different ways. But some businesses will not come back, and that normal will never return. And they will, if they don't adapt, which is critical, you need to adapt, they will go out of business. That's heartbreaking because some of these small business owners put everything into these companies. But the new normal is going to cause some business models to no longer be effective. So adaptability is important. What were your three, Doug? What'd you have from Mr. Calley?
So one thing I first takeaway, it might be time specific given everything flying 700 miles an hour and changing by the hour, but I took away 3 key tactics he recommends for small businesses to focus on, prioritize. Number 1, make sure you do the PPP and you're enrolled in that program. Second thing, you start identifying and making changes based on the requirements that will happen around reopening. That means making sure your business is equipped for social distancing and has personal protective equipment. Final thing is making sure that the communication with your creditors, with your banks, with your suppliers, with your customers, with everyone is really robust. It's not a time to go quiet, which relates to my second point. Brian had a great article in the Detroit News with Sheryl Sandberg from Facebook, and they have a great partnership, and Facebook is really trying to look to help small businesses during that time. So my second point was making sure small businesses keep the communication up with their customers on social media. That's one thing we were trying to do this semester and support that initiative with our hashtag Safe Michigan campaign. And the final one was what can we do as community members, as citizens, to support small businesses? That could be things like thinking local first with our purchases. That might mean ordering out a little bit more. Gosh knows I'm done cooking, so I'm all about that one. And then if you have the capability, upping that tip, putting a 50% tip, doing something as a small gesture, I know that those businesses need it. So those were the takeaways I had. Phenomenal conversation, great guy, and we hope our listeners enjoy this conversation we had with Brian Calley. The Jungle is produced by the Center for Principled Leadership and Business Strategy in Western Michigan University's Hayworth College of Business. Our center supports the leadership and business strategy major, conducts large-scale consulting projects, and trains professionals in acquiring and operating small businesses. To learn more, visit wmich.edu/leadership center. Brian, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be with you. Thanks for the invitation.
So you're the first guest taking the call from the car. Tell us a little bit about why you're in the car.
Yeah, I do all of these calls from the car because I live way out in the country, and it's hard for some people to imagine there is no fiber cable runs down my road. And just the way the topography works, the cell signal is not particularly strong. So to do video conferencing, I got to get in my car, drive in closer to the freeway, and I park at a gas station, and here we go. But it's in my hometown, so every once in a while somebody will knock on my window to say hello. So just keep that in mind.
Unbelievable. So where's hometown for you?
Portland, Michigan. So it's a little town on I-96, about halfway between Lansing and Grand Rapids.
Wonderful. Well, do you happen to have a beverage there with you?
I do have a beverage here. Yes.
Cheers to you. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, this is my coffee.
A little monster. Love it.
Doug, you got tea, Doug?
I got some tea, got some good honey today. Ready to roll. So Brian, you're in a great position to share some of what you're learning and your experience right now as the president of the Small Business Association here in Michigan. We've read up a little bit about you. We read the recent piece you had in the Detroit News with Sheryl Sandberg. Before we kind of get into some of the tactics, let's step back. You've been in government. You're now running the Small Business Association for Michigan. Walk us into a little bit of like what you're thinking, feeling. What has this been like for you?
Well, it's been intense, but the work of our association has never been more important than it is right now. The small businesses they're the foundation, the economic foundation. We're blessed to have a lot of big businesses that are headquartered here in Michigan, but even they are successful because of the innovation and the pipeline of development and practices that happen through their supply chains, and most of those are small businesses. So we know that small businesses are not a luxury; they are a necessity. And so as we do the important work of helping small businesses survive this, we know that that the role that we're playing, both how to access federal programs, but also how to comply with the rules that are constantly changing. So there's a certain amount of frustration among small business owners, but they're a persevere. It's the bunch that is used to persevering through difficult times. Even in the best of times, entrepreneurs have a lot stacked up against them. So they know how to take a punch, but these are in some cases insurmountable odds. But we're just trying to give them everything that we can give them in order to see the other side of this economic and public health crisis.
So walk us into a little bit of like a day to day. Imagine it's changes maybe by the hour, but I mean, what kind of things are you doing leading this association during the last couple weeks?
Well, the first thing that we did, actually it's been over a month ago now, but we repurposed the entire staff of the association just for this. We don't do anything else. We only work on COVID-19 response. So we got 26 staff members, and we take all the information that's coming in and we filter it for what's important for small business owners. Then we decipher it, translate it, we try to clarify it, and then share that information with our small business owners. And we dropped all the paywalls and everything for the association. We're a membership association, but right now anybody can see our stuff and be a part of what we're doing, because it's really mission driven to save as many small businesses as we possibly can. But there's a continuous feedback cycle between us and then the public officials making decisions, where we're finding issues and things that need clarification, making suggestions about how we can move forward. Now we're into this phase where we're phased in opening the economy, and how to do that and how to do it safely, and what small business owners can do to protect their customers and their workforce during these times. I mean, so there's so much to it, and we're getting into a lot of things that we've never done before. Teaching business owners about health screening and how to get personal protective equipment and how to properly use personal protective equipment, and social distancing within the workplace, and how to set up remotely, how to handle human resources issues that they've never had to think about or deal with before this COVID-19 crisis. So it's just a ton of information. It's information that small business owners need to know, and our job is to filter it and put it in a form that they can easily digest without lawyers and accountants and compliance staff, because in most cases, the legal chief of a small business is the business owner. The HR director of the small business is the business owner. The procurement officer of the small business owner of a small business is the business owner. So that's why we've got our role has become much more important than it was even just 2 months ago.
So can you take us kind of inside of that, both emotionally and then tactically, how you were advising some of these small businesses on their decision-making, on their planning? Because if you're running a small business right now, thinking about personal protective equipment and using that correctly and learning that whole new skill is new. So can you first, as you're hearing from them, their emotions, second, tactically, what are you advising them from your chair on how to plan, make decisions, and for the future?
Well, the small business owners, they're tough, like salt of the earth, pillar of their community, strong people. But the weight of what has happened is taking an emotional toll. There's no question about that. We have really seen so many of our members struggle just with, they've been successful, maybe never had to lay anybody off before, and yet they have to. They're feeling the weight of the crushing weight of the decisions that they have to make, and the impact that has on other people. It's and then to see this project, this business, this enterprise that they have just poured their life into and maybe given their entire professional career to, and to see it slipping away in really through no fault of their own, and there's nothing they can do about it right now. So until things are such that they can get back to work. So what we're trying to do is to help give them productive feedback and orient on, okay, what can we control? What can you control as a business owner right now? And there are certain things that you can get ready for. And there are certain things that can help you get through, like survive right now. There are some federal programs that we spend a lot of time on teaching our members, but really the small business community at large, and how to access some of this support so that they can at least see through the other side. So we're not talking about a scenario right now where business owners are drawing down economic development dollars to grow. It's just, how do I survive so that I can have a shot at making it when things open back up or return to whatever the new normal is going to be. So it definitely takes an emotional toll, yet there's a lot of work that can be done, productive work that can be done to get ready and give yourself the best possible shot. So we've dedicated our lives to that. Each person that works at our association, we're working around the clock. I don't think that my staff has ever worked as hard as they are right now, because it never ends. You know, trying to think of the last night that I had just a restful, peaceful night of sleep. It's been well over 6 weeks, because, you know, I lay down and I think, boy, there's so many people that are still waiting on me for some clarification, an answer, a call, and just the volume coming in. And I know they can't sleep, so I don't want it to rest. And my whole staff feels that way.
So could I jump in there and ask, when you think of, you talked about the volume of information coming, right, from public officials, and then you were translating, and then you're sharing out to business owners, and business owners are the ones that are maybe doing legal, and they're doing payroll, and they're doing purchasing, and they're doing the whole deal. What are the 3 things you think they need to prioritize? Is there, from a policy perspective, that you guys are helping on programs? What are the 3 things that you want, or you'd advise people to think about?
In terms of the federal support, or any kind of state, federal, local support, we have recommended people just put at the very top of your list something called the Paycheck Protection Program. This was part of the original CARES Act, the $2.2 trillion survival package. Some people call it a stimulus package. I call it a survival package, that came out of Congress a few weeks ago, and now its successor that the president is just signing into law to extend the Paycheck Protection Program. That's a couple months worth of payroll support for most small businesses and nonprofits. So what we're saying is, there are a lot of different things out there. Make this one a priority, because almost every small business, this is a good tool. And there's limited dollars. They will run out. And so that's top of the list. We're also starting to feel more comfortable with what the requirements will be for reopening. And so we're asking our members to start thinking toward, okay, you're going to have to achieve social distancing inside your workplace when you're green lighted to go back in. So think about process reengineering. How can you still get the job done without people coming in contact or getting close to each other? And to the extent that there is some public facing part of your business, or employees that are in close contact or in enclosed areas, you're going to have to provide personal protective equipment, things like face coverings. So there's going to be a strain on the supply chain. Start working toward how you're going to source that, so that you're not at a point where you could open up, except for you can't get the face coverings in or the other personal protective equipment that you need. And the third thing would be robust communication with both your customers, your creditors, and your employees. So if you have creditors, ignoring them is the wrong approach, right? Talk to them about it. Go to your bank and ask, can I get an extension on my mortgage payment? Call your utility company. If your cash flow is to a point where you can't make it, don't just ignore it. Call and ask them for an extension so it doesn't screw up your credit. Because many of them are going to say yes now to those kinds of requests. And don't take for granted that your employees are going to feel comfortable coming back in just because the government says they're allowed to. So making sure that your customers and employees know about the safety precautions that you are going to take, so that when they come in, they can be productive and focused on their work, not worried about whether or not they're putting themselves or their families in jeopardy.
Brian, just a quick question to put this all in context. I don't know if you have the data or not. We've read a lot of scary information about survival and solvency of some of these small businesses. Is your office tracking it all? Percentages, numbers? It's a critical part of the economy. Are we going to lose a large amount, or most of them going to survive because what the government in your office is doing? Any insight there that you can provide?
Every day that the overall economy of our country and our state stays closed, more will not survive. That number of casualties, of business failures will go up every single day. And that's not to say that the decision to close is wrong. That's just a reality. The longer we stay closed, the more that will not be able to reopen. We did a survey among our members. We've got 28,000 members now, over 28,000. And we did a survey and asked, do you think you're going to survive? And we had a lot of different, I'm confident I'm going to make it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to make it. I'm not really sure at all. I'm probably not going to make it to I'm definitely out of business. And between I'm probably not going to make it and I'm definitely out of business, it was 14%. Now, that, I don't know if that sounds like a lot to you, but that's a lot. Right? The idea of a 14% business failure on top of the normal kind of business failure cycle is a lot. It's a very substantial number that we will be dealing with for a very long period of time. So that's just our members. That's not the economy at large. But I'm also I'm concerned for what the new normal looks like in the future. And there are some business models that aren't going to work. There are some types of business that have intensely public-facing aspects to them, and there's no easy answer. There's not a good way for them to reopen, given what we know the requirements are for reopening, at least at this point.
Could we kind of zoom out right there? And you talked about the new normal. What do you think the new normal looks like? You hear things that says everything is going one way, it's going to be totally different. Some people say it's going to bounce back and we're going to be back to normal. Give us maybe a point of view of as you see the new normal shaping out.
Well, that's the $1 trillion question, but I'll give you some things that I think that are fairly obvious. First is, even though office work and manufacturing work and outdoor facilities and construction are generally going to return, there are certain types of professions and certain types of activities, like large gatherings of people, that it's difficult to imagine, even yet this year, for there to be big concerts, as an example. Now you may think, okay, so there's concerts and concert venues and the performers, they're going to make it, and yeah, they're probably going to make it. But the amount of business that happens around that, the amount of traffic created, the amount of business that is in existence specifically because big gatherings of people happen, is the ripple effect of that is enormous. That's just an example. Things like movie theaters and bowling alleys. There's not an easy way to achieve social distancing and non-contact experiences in those situations. And then there's also consumer habits that are going to change. Right now, the adoption curve of procuring whatever you need online has shot through the roof. It was already substantial, but consumer habits have necessarily changed overnight. And whether or not they're going to change back to what they were before, nobody knows that. And then even something as simple as office space. So a lot of businesses for a long time have wondered about, could I pull off remote office work? Well, they're finding out now that, because they have to, that they can. Now, if you're in the commercial office space leasing business, if that's what you do, you've got to be really concerned right now that the idea of downsizing office space needs in the future and maintaining this work from home model more than before is a threat to your long-term recovery. So all of those things, it just give you a sense. And I promise you, I have not even scratched the surface of the things that might not ever change back to what we consider to be normal in the past.
Do you see in this environment, we talked a lot about the three priority things in the short term companies should be focusing on. Do you have any sense of how companies, or what you would advise companies as they think about innovating to come out of this period even stronger? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think that innovation is going to be. There are some business models and some ideas, some innovations that will allow people to come out of this in a much stronger position, because the world changed, and it changed in a way that created opportunity. There are other people who are going to be ruined because of it, and so our job, really, kind of society at large and policymakers, is to try to help bridge that gap, to anticipate as much as we can about what types of professions are at risk of never really recovering, and how do we connect those people to opportunities that will come out of this on the other side. We have, in the short term, though, one thing that businesses can do, because they know their business really well, is they can try to anticipate how this might impact what they do. I mentioned some already that are fairly obvious, but there are a lot of other subtle changes that could have a profound impact on individual businesses. And only those businesses are going to be able to anticipate that. And to the extent that they can, and just determine, okay, what can I do? Even an association like ours, a big part of what we do in terms of educating people is in person. So we put on conferences, we put on these sessions with people, everything from networking among business owners to education, compliance education, best practice events, and that probably isn't going to be back anytime soon. So how we have to figure out at our association, how can we provide the same level of service in a way that doesn't involve putting a bunch of people together in one room or a series of rooms. So I think all of us have to start anticipating and then innovating for the future.
So Brian, I got a question. So one of the things you said was make sure you're ready to reopen. This is likely a health crisis first, but we don't want to use some of the phrases from your article, economic collateral damage from small business. What are you advising businesses to look at in terms of information, besides for going to your website, which has a lot of great resources, but what are some signals we should be looking for some of these companies to reopen? The news is all over the place. Some states are all over the place, from Michigan and our core listener base. What are you saying look at as signals as that we're moving in the right direction?
Well, if you're operating in Michigan, it's kind of there's one place which is the kind of final determining factor, and that's the governor. So obviously, watching the things that the governor says and does would make a lot of sense. We intensely watch, analyze, and interpret every public word that the governor says, and we work with her department on different things, looking for clues about the general direction that they're going. I don't think that the average person who doesn't pay attention to public officials on a regular basis or part of what they do would necessarily be able to pick up on all the signals. But I'll just give you one example. We started telling our members in our daily briefing that we do on Facebook Live that we felt that face coverings, as opposed to N95 surgical masks, were going to be the recommendation, or maybe a requirement, and that fit OSHA guidance. But we had the governor on our briefing, and she used the term face covering. Now, I know that term because it's in OSHA regulations, and that's different than a face mask. So cloth-based face covering was something. When the governor said that, we were able to take that information and say to our audience, small business owners, hey, the governor's using this terminology. It wasn't by accident. If you're trying to get ready, or you want to get ready for opening in the future, don't hold out for N95 medical grade masks. It sounds to us like they're thinking toward regular OSHA standards for mouth and nose coverings, cloth-based face coverings, and then lo and behold, today an executive order update of executive order came out, and it's clear that is the direction that the governor is going. So in terms of getting ready, in some cases, kind of like a crystal ball, but really it's paying attention to the details, and that's part of what we do.
Brian, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the article you wrote with Sheryl Sandberg in the Detroit News. You just mentioned Facebook Live as your daily briefing. I know that article also, it talks about technology as playing a role in small business success. It also talks about what customers, local people in the community can do to support their small businesses. Do you want to speak to some of the work that you're doing there?
Yeah, so when we had Cheryl come on the daily briefing, it was, the main thing was that for every community that they have a physical presence in, including Detroit, they have a grant fund to help small businesses. So that was being unveiled, and just a really cool effort that Facebook had going. But the idea of communication and staying in contact with your customers and using whatever platforms that you can, and Facebook is a great one to use. The idea of using that technology to connect in with customers, and it's everything from gift cards to promotional to online orders and shipments. And we saw just today that there was a lot more allowance given by state government for workers, people going into work for fulfillment of online orders and non-contact deliveries. These are more innovations. A lot of businesses, they've never really thought about, well, how do I take an order and get it to my customer and have nobody ever meet or touch? And so that's the sort of thing was to be able to develop business in an electronic format has become much more important virtually overnight. It was already kind of going that direction, but that adoption curve went from like this to this, like straight up. And so that social media platforms are going to play a really important role.
I got one more question, and then maybe Derek's got one more. We'll wrap up. So we actually, our students in our program did something pretty amazing this semester. We were thinking, once the COVID crisis hit, how can we empower our students to help others? And so our students, we developed a social media campaign around the hashtag Safe Michigan. And our students, speaking to technology, developed 100 students developed 50 videos as kind of to circulate on social media, appreciating brands and local businesses to kind of bring that awareness and that attention to those companies. The Hayworth College of Business is very externally oriented in trying to be able to do that. What is your advice for all of us citizens and customers out there of what we can do to support small businesses during this time?
The main thing is to go out of your way for whatever it is that you're already purchasing, to the extent that you can purchase it locally, and it might not be as convenient. It might not be. There are certain kind of online retail giants that kind of want everything, like a one-stop shop. But the idea of purchasing and sourcing locally is it's worth it for your community, because really, when it comes to those who are going to support the fabric of the infrastructure of your community, that's who it is. I mean, small business owners, they live there, like that's their home, and so they're not extracting things out. You have that same money that's cycling through, and it's benefiting so many different people. So it's worth it to go out of your way. Something as simple. One of the things I don't eat out a lot, but I never have. But I've started now to get carry out 3 times a week at least. Well, it turned out to be more than that. But I set a goal, just a quota, that I'm eating every day anyway. Like 3 times a year, I am going to order carry out. And then I stretch, and I give, I get this. My credit card company is always sending these emails like, did you intend to give a 50% tip? And just a tip bigger at this time, people, money's hard. Things are tight, and I'm not asking anybody to do anything that they can't afford. But if you can, it goes so far, and so it's worth it to go out of your way to buy locally whenever you possibly can.
Eric, do you have one more question before we wrap up?
How about give some shout out to some local businesses that you're ordering food from? How about that one? We'll give some local business some credit on the podcast. So talk about some in your area that you're loving to eat at right now.
Sure. Right here in Portland, there's a place called Oliveira's, and great Italian, and there's Fabiano's, and and then the Wagon Wheel, which is it's also a bowling alley and bar, but they have great food too. So 3 really awesome options in Portland. A lot of people always say, oh yeah, Portland, I stopped there for gas. And I said, well, stop there for takeout too.
There you go. There you go. We're going to wrap up here. We're almost out of time. Brian, we'd like to conclude each of our conversations with little rapid fire questions. Kind of 1-word answers is what we're looking for. Are you ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right. Favorite leader?
Winston Churchill.
Courage or compassion?
Compassion.
Speed or accuracy?
Accuracy.
Liking or respect?
Respect.
Great ideas or great execution?
Great execution.
A word to describe your leadership style?
Inclusive.
And if you had a spirit animal that really illustrated and embodied your leadership, Brian, what would be your spirit animal?
Golden Retriever.
Excellent. Excellent. Any reason why? Any reason why you're thinking the Golden Retriever?
I never had a dog until right now. We just got this Golden Retriever 6 months ago. And I don't know, our person, I look back like, I can't believe I wasted 43 years of my life without having a dog, and especially a Golden Retriever. I feel like we're almost like, I don't know, we're twins. We're just perfectly matched.
There you go. There you go. If folks wanted to get more involved and hear more from your association, where do they go? What's the recommendation?
Well, of course, there's the website, sbam.org, SBAM.org, as in Small Business Association of Michigan. And then right here from this car, I do a Facebook Live every weekday at 3:00 on our Facebook page.
Perfect. Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Great insight for our listeners, our small businesses in the area. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Brian.